And we're back. Welcome everyone tuning in to a new episode of PodCats. In fact, it's episode number 3, and we do have a new guest here. Who are you? Sorry, I timed that correct. It's like I aimed for. I waited until you put that cup to your mouth.
DS Lily, hardcore player.
Right. Hardcore player of what?
PoE.
PoE, the Path of Exile, the game that we all love. What is where does the DS Lily come from? What's the origin of the name? Is there like a story associated with it? Is it based on your real name, or is it like a completely fictional name?
I don't sleep.
Yeah. Right. The DSs don't sleep.
I used to do a lot longer hours than I currently do too for streaming, but burnout on the game happens, so I do less. Less is more sometimes.
Yeah. No, I always think that there's a perfect golden middle between quantity and quality, and if you like scale one too hard, then the other one suffers, and there's like a nice middle ground. But yeah, the DSs don't sleep. So, and where's the Lily part from? Is that?
It's my name.
Is that completely fictional? Okay, yeah. So your actual real name is Lily.
Indeed.
Damn. So everyone calls you Lily? Do you have like another nickname in real life?
No.
No. Okay. Well, what I would be curious about is if we didn't know each other from this online sphere, the streaming thing, and the Path of Exile, if we just were to meet in a different social context, like how would you introduce yourself?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No.
You would be introduced because other people are not as rude as me. Or you just don't go outside?
No, I don't go outside and I don't talk to people.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, right. True. I qualify as people, so like you wouldn't talk to me. But if, on the hypothetical that we meet and we talk, would you say that streaming is your profession? Like if people ask you about it, like what do you do for a living? Is that like something that you openly talk about, or is it something where you're like, I don't know how people are going to take it?
Yeah, I'll say streaming, and then I'll mentally prepare myself for the questions and having to explain it to somebody who doesn't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually takes a few minutes, but
are there some common misconceptions that people have about the thing?
I don't know if it'd be a misconception, but people assume OnlyFans. Like one time there was this old lady at like an antique store. I was talking about this on stream the other day. And even the old ladies ask, do you do OnlyFans?
Wait, how old?
I'm like, no. How old? I don't know, probably 60s.
Okay. I know that's not super old, like
yeah,
not great grandma kind of, but like already almost elderly, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's weird that that's so known. It might be a different thing in the States. I'm curious whether if I ask my grandma if she knows what OnlyFans is, whether she knows. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. Like she's oblivious to that sort of stuff, and it's good. But my grandma is like.
Too.
May I ask how old is your grandma?
I don't know, 80 something.
Okay, yeah, mine is 93 now. So she's like actually she's becoming more stubborn and funny, and it's funny. It makes for some good situations, but it's also obviously it's a struggle for the person when they realize like when there is like sort of you realize you can't do things the way that you used to, and you have to kind of admit to yourself that there's a sort of decline. I think that's hard to deal with. But
yeah, haven't had that happen to me yet.
Not?
No.
Wait, how old are you now, if I may ask? I haven't asked you ever.
That's a secret.
It's a secret. Okay, yeah, true. Like you don't ask ladies their age, right? But speaking from my own personal experience, the moment I went past like 24, I think like everything was downhill. Like it's the time where you realize that you can't just fall asleep in any position in any spot anymore. It's just it will hurt. Even if you sleep in your bed, you twist the wrong way. It's so bad. But yeah, do you sleep well? Because you said insomnia. Is that like something? Are you just
It goes through cycles. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
the question would be, or what I'm trying to find out is, are you purposefully procrastinating on sleep, or is it like something you're trying to sleep but you can't, and then you just like you get up and play
Oh
instead?
no, on stream and I stay awake forever. Usually I force myself to go to sleep. If I'm not bored, I don't go to sleep. Pretty much, when I get bored is when I go to sleep. If I'm not
Okay.
bored, I will never fall asleep.
Oh, okay, that's an. I'm so unprepared for this answer. So it's a boredom thing, right?
Mostly.
So no matter how tired you are, or is it like if you get really tired, then it's easier to bore you?
Tired, but sometimes I still just naturally get tired. But if I'm not bored, it doesn't kick in for a long time.
All right. Well, before we go into the whole gaming topic, I was curious about like some things about your personal and, well, as much as possible professional background without wanting to intrude. But I feel like it seems reasonable for me to ask some of the background in order to find out like your inner workings and like how you got into the whole gaming streaming thing and like which point of view you come from in order to understand better how everything comes together. And so I was going to ask if you're more of a science person or more of an art person.
In theory, science, but I'm too lazy, so art. Art is a million times easier.
But so you do appreciate both.
I mean, I do pretty much nothing to do with science these days, so I don't know if I'd say that, but so art.
Well, PoE is somewhat of a science, right? I mean, so many disciplines.
Kinda.
You need to research and have correct information and understand the logic behind it. I think it's definitely a game that's more appealing to scientists than to art people, although the art department in PoE is also awesome. But it's like,
yeah, I talk about that too. So basically, for a really long time, there is like, I don't know, maybe even until like 3 years ago, there is basically zero Rule 34 of PoE. It's which side of your brain is the art side, left or right?
it's a good question, but like,
Well, whatever.
one of the two. Let's just say side A and B.
The pretty much 99% of PoE players are analytic side because there's basically no fan art or anything. You can I feel like you can judge a game on this based on how much Rule 34 of the game there is. And for PoE, there is basically none for over a decade.
There's basically the Gravicious and Shadow copy pasta.
Yeah, and that one's just a copy pasta. It's not like real. I mean, I think there's
still
more
an art
now than there used to be, but yeah, I guess it's still an art.
Yeah, you made me curious. Now I want to look for that. I had that thought as well, like a couple years ago. I was curious: is there like Marauder and Witch doing other things than what they do in the game? Doing research, science experiments.
There probably is now. The game is pretty big.
Fair enough. But yeah, so you say you haven't done science in a while. Is like, did you have scientific topics in school? Did you like do well in school subjects? Did you like school in general? Or are you happy you're not there anymore?
No, I did. Oh, I look fondly back on school, but no, I did not like it at the time. Well, I was in nursing school, and then I stopped because I started streaming, and I was like, why would I do school when I could play video games, so I played games instead.
So that was your plan B, was nursing school at the time?
I guess it was more like my plan A, but then I started streaming and it went well. So it became the plan doesn't exist anymore.
And so when you were in school, and nursing school by extension, did you get along well with teachers, or in general with authority figures?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't talk, so yeah. I was most of their favorites because I didn't speak.
Okay, but then you don't get good grades if you don't speak, or is it like more test based? Because yeah, I don't know what like the grading looks like there.
I didn't have to speak. Yeah, I mean, rarely in some classes the teacher would grade on it, but pretty much didn't have to.
I just seen the most amazing suggestion in chat. Someone needs to start an OnlyFans where they draw PoE art.
Probably exist.
That
well,
would be
I
a
don't know.
business model.
The market probably wouldn't be that high because most PoE players are like, I gotta look it up now.
Yeah, but they're whales. They're PoE whales, right? Like they're people who spend like thousands and thousands of euros on this game, and if there might be a certain percentage of those people who are also willing to spend that money on content, third-party content that enhances their game experience. Another thing I was curious about is in PoE 2 we have spirit. Do you have any relation to spirituality or religion? Is there any sort of... I'm just curious. I'm sorry if I ask these super naive and dumb questions.
Well, this is a good segue. No.
Do you go to church when you were younger?
Nope. I mean, like maybe once or twice, but no.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. I mean, you know, maybe you would have said, "Oh, I'm actually a Satanist, and I go to these rituals and witch circles and."
Nah.
I don't know.
Satanism.
Some people have. Satanism is cringe.
I've never met a non-cringe person who is like that.
I don't know. I feel like the cool Satanists wouldn't like go out and telling everyone that they're Satanists.
Oh, they're definitely telling everybody. It's kind of like the meme with, how do you know someone's a vegan? They'll tell you.
Yeah, about that. No, I was gonna say non-Christian people who are against church, like people who are against the Catholic Church, are also often very outspoken. Like I met this friend of my sister, like last year, like when we were just in a bar. I was there with my sister just for one beer, and she introduced me to that lady. And like within the first 10 sentences or something like that, she started shitting on the church and like how bad it is and how much she hates it and terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's that kind of person is kind of universal to all groups and whatnot. There's always the outspoken, loud people who go to one extreme or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Who like carry it very much on the outside, what they're practicing, no matter what it is. Right. Like me claiming I'm the cat master because I like cats. Also, another silly, misinformed segue. Cats or dogs?
Cats and dogs are too much work.
Fair, yeah. No, I mean, I knew you have cats. Do you still have the cats from back in the day? Like, Linus was the one cat, right? And the other cat was...
Bug.
Bug. Right. And they're still both with you?
Yep.
How they're doing?
They're pretty good. Bug almost died, but I fixed him.
Wait, what happened?
He had like FIP, and I don't know, vets here won't give them the medicine for it, so I had to get it off the dark web and ordered it. And that was good.
That sounds terrible. But I'm glad you managed to get it. Like, what's the reasoning? Is like vets are just like it's not worth it, or is there no legal
It's just
groundwork
not
for that?
approved or something, which I don't know. You'd think it'd be approved pretty easily because it's for an animal or whatever, but
Hmm.
I don't know.
Regulations on clinical trials are pretty rough, and it's like even for animals these days, right? And no one wants animals to be harmed. And there's this whole like whole shtick with pharmacology and like cosmetic products being tested on animals, and like more and more people are actually making an effort to find out which companies do test on animals, which companies don't, and then they prefer to buy the product that doesn't test on animals in a lot of cases. At least that's a thing here. I don't know how far that is over there.
I feel like most people probably don't care, but it's a thing.
If you were to, and please don't mind me like randomly continuing questions to move on because we have a pretty long list that I got up here. If you were to watch a documentary, what kind of topics do you find most appealing? It's like I wrote down options, history, space, wildlife, geography, but really like anything. It's like, or is there
Uh,
any documentary you've watched recently you found interesting?
no, I haven't watched documentary in a long time, but probably history.
All right, history. Like how far back? Like 16th century or antique or like more
Um,
recent?
anything history related. I guess before like World War II and prior, all the way back to whenever, to written
Okay.
history, anyways. I guess not like Neanderthals.
Yeah, not like that speculative shit with the ancient civilizations and stuff like that. There's this whole series about ancient apocalypses where this guy like theory crafts about civilizations before recorded history, right?
Is that the History Channel alien meme guy?
I have no idea. I forgot his name. But dude, I recently watched this. I actually started like 2 days ago or something like that. There's a series from this. I forgot his name. I think Alex Honnold or the guy who did the 3,000 foot free solo climb in one of the national parks on the, I think, Old Faithful. It's called 3,000 feet high. I think it's in Yosemite or in Yellowstone. I can't be arsed to remember. But like he did the entire 3,000 feet climb without any like aid, just with his bare hands. And yeah, and now he's like doing some research in Antarctic, I think, or Arctic, in the Arctic region, right? They were like getting glacier samples or something like that to find out how much the glaciers move, and it's just I see. I'm not catching your interest with it, but I think I can recommend that. It's really cool. It's like insanely crazy to think that someone like climbs this huge distance without any like safety net or anything really. Because like one wrong move, like one kind of porous rock, like one hold that doesn't hold, and you fall off and you're done, right?
We forgot to do the stream together thing.
We forgot to do the stream together thing. All right, well, let's do the stream together thing. I thought I sent you an invite, but then I forgot to mention it again.
I don't know how it works.
All right, you go
You
in
know how
your
it works?
dashboard. Oh, I think it just flipped out or something like that. I thought I had sent you an invite. I'll send an invite, right? So on the quick actions thing on the Twitch dashboard, where you have your like add
Yeah.
buttons and stuff, there should be a stream together button as well.
Oh, is this a thing that every time I hover over a stream, it wants me to knock on their door?
I remember what you mean, but I'm not sure whether that's the exact same. But the best
I don't know.
part
I
is it
clicked it.
doesn't. I clicked it. All right. Welcome back to stream together. Okay. But now it wants me to join the call. Are we streaming together now? Chat, tell us we're streaming together. Tells me to join the call. Okay, I press join the call. I don't see your name in the list here.
I don't see your name. I don't know. It's fine.
I mean, when I did the interview with Pi, she just suggested we do that, and then I thought it was fine, and it was cool, and I wanted to establish it, especially like when we said we're going to do the interview, and I realized that it was going to be in the middle of your stream. I was like, I don't want you to quit the stream for me, or like, feel like compelled that you have to, sacrifice your Friday uptime for me. So I was like, let's suggest that. But in the end, I mean, people know that I'm interviewing you because your name is in my title, and I've seen you put like my name in your title, so should be fine, right?
All right, that works, I guess.
So, not watching documentaries. Are there any shows that you'd recommend that you've recently watched?
Recently, I've been watching Silo. It's pretty good.
What's the unique selling point there? I mean, that's perfect because sell me on it. I've never seen it. I don't think I've even heard of it. What's it about?
It's kind of similar to Fallout, except nobody leaves the tube.
So they just stay in like an underground bunker all the time?
Yep.
Okay. Sounds interesting. Socially pressuring situation where people have to get along with each other even if they might not want to. Or are they there by choice or are they forced?
Well, I can't say too much without spoiling.
Okay, no, fair. I'll check it out and find out. Now, I have a question here that I think I'm not sure whether you'll be able to answer that because I'm not sure whether you even listen to music as albums. I wrote down what are your favorite music albums of all time, but it's like, is that still something people do? Like listen to entire albums, or you just put on Spotify playlists?
I let Spotify do its thing, and then it repeats after 2 hours because Spotify sucks, and I'll change it. So yeah, I don't really listen to whole albums.
All right. I could definitely recommend it if you have like a band or an artist that you like really like, and you're like, oh, their music is kind of cool, and then just listen to their entire album as like the vision that they want to bring to life, because a lot of times they want to like sort of tell a story or have an arc. It's not just a collection of songs that they wanted to release, but there's like an overarching sort of theme or vision. It can be very entertaining. Can also be super disappointing though.
Yeah, I try not to listen to lyrics because I feel like it usually ruins songs. So I even go out of my way to listen to songs in other languages that I can't understand on purpose.
Okay, but you do appreciate the singing?
Yeah, if it sounds
Because I can
good.
very much relate to that. For my background music on stream, I hate it when there's singing. Like, especially if it's in a language I understand. But in general, like just any sort of voice being used as an instrument is very annoying to me when I'm trying to talk over it.
I mean, I like the voice as the instrument. I don't like the things they say usually.
Like, just that they're saying things in general, because it like
Well, like
activates that.
basically like 80% of songs are like, I like this girl, but she didn't like me back. Now I'm sad.
All right, right.
Yeah.
Cliches, played out, boring. Okay, right. Unoriginal. No, I can relate to that. Also, like with a lot of pop music, is like, always the same rhymes, like fire, desire, love, above, and that sort of stuff. Yeah. No, I can totally relate. Just trying to get your angle there. I also dug up the streamer interview you did with Grinding Gear Games in 2022. That's already almost 3 years ago. Damn, time flies. And so much has changed since then. But one of the things you mentioned there is that you think cars are pretty cool, besides games. I was like, do you have a dream car that you'd like to drive or own? Or do you own a car?
Yeah, I have a Miata.
I guess you kind of have to in the States, right?
Yeah, Well, I mean, you can live in some cities if you're rich, and then you could be not rich and not live well. But yeah, if you're not in a city, you need it.
Fair enough.
But I don't know, dream car. I don't know, I can't see myself spending 500 grand on a car, so
Okay, assume it's free.
assume it's free.
Yeah, you win.
Even if
Any
I
car
assume
of
it's free,
choice.
then I'm just gonna choose the highest value one and sell it.
You're not allowed to sell it. You have to drive it for at least a year.
Hmm.
Would it be automatic or manual?
Do they even make hypercars with manual anymore? I don't think so.
What's a hypercar?
Or, like Lamborghinis, the big boys like Bugatti, Andrew Tate cars.
Okay, like the yeah, I get it. The
Yeah,
muscle car. No, not muscle car. Is it a muscle car? But I know what you mean. Those
not quite.
extremely expensive.
Yeah,
I would assume that there's like a lot of enthusiasts who want to have the manual stick shift there because they want to like feel the car. They feel the RPMs and like
yeah.
listen to the sound of the engine and like really min max that gear shifting.
No, I don't really care if it's automatic or manual.
So no strong preference
I'm not a
either way.
purist. No.
Okay. But you do you're able to drive a manual car and you
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate
I
that as
haven't
well.
in some years because manual cars actually, oddly enough, at least for like sports cars in the US, tend to be more expensive because the purists really want them and they don't make many of them. So
Oh, okay.
I'm
Right.
not gonna drop an extra 5 grand on a car for it to be stick shift instead of
Yeah, for it to
automatic.
be more work when you're actually driving it and like less ability to multitask and pay
Yeah.
attention to conversations or something like that. No, I feel that, but I just last time I drove a car, I really liked like having to go up and down, and it forces me to engage more with the engine, right? Like to engage more on a what's the on a feeling level with the car, like just get more of a feeling for how fast I go and when is the right time to shift gears.
Yeah. Um, no, I don't really. It's not a make or break for me.
Right. Uh Yeah, no, I guess my answer would be I mean, I'm not gonna give an answer to any question, but like I probably would go for a manual for a car that I get for enjoyment, like if I really want to drive it as a passion, and if it's a car that I get to do groceries and to go to work and to like, get from A to B, then I'd obviously prefer manual because automatic because then I have to pay less attention and I can drive when I'm more tired and all that.
Yeah, most sports cars now too have. I mean, it's different, and the purists will like cringe at it or whatever. But there's like shifters, paddle shifters behind the steering wheel if you want it. I mean, it's kind of different, but it's
Oh
not
right,
like
so like little
literally
things.
connected to the transmission or whatever. But so a little bit in the step in the right direction if you want that.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Like with a like a controller when you're playing a racing game on a controller, you can like
Yeah,
use the
similar.
trigger buttons to go up and down. Right. Any thoughts on self-driving cars?
I don't know, they're safer.
You think so?
I think if anybody has a DUI, they should not be able to drive a car themselves, and they have to use a Tesla or something that will drive for them.
Hmm. What about the dilemma of the like who takes the blame? Like who's getting like if the self-driving car runs someone over, like who gets sued?
Um, Probably the self-driving car
So the
if it's
manufacturer?
wrong. Yeah, they could
Hmm.
probably. I mean, they could tank the loss, no problem. Companies make a lot of money.
Hmm.
I bet. I mean, the amount of people that self-driving cars will hit is probably drastically lower than a human. So they could probably tank the loss every so often on the on those lawsuits.
Fair enough. It's just a numbers game. Honestly, I don't have enough data on that to have like a seriously deep conversation about it. It's just a dilemma that I picked up that I heard other people talk about, and I was just like wondering whether you have any insights. Or it could be that you're strictly against or strictly in favor. You're like, oh, this is gonna be, just give it another 5 to 10 years, and it's gonna be better than any human driver ever, which is likely true.
I mean, I also have not looked into it. Not looked into it a ton, but I'm pretty sure it already is better. I mean, like, people are just scared of it because it's not human. Whenever there's something that's not human, people just will get scared of it, right? Like, oh, we have to blame somebody instead, or like, oh no, it's a computer killing 10 people instead of 100 people killed from a human. That's scarier.
Well, it is scary if no one's liable for it, right? Like, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you can get the manufacturer to always be responsible legally, then sure. What kind of hobbies would you like to explore outside of gaming and streaming, or like, are you already exploring? Is there anything that you want to do? I mean, it doesn't even have to be outside of streaming. Like, if you were to do like an IRL stream and go outside into the outside world, do you do fun things with your stream? Do you do horseback riding? Do you visit a Christmas market in Frankfurt, or do you like walk around on the streets of Tokyo and interview random people? Or
Nope. I just play video games.
no, that's fair.
That's about
That's
it.
fair.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, video games and hot tubs full of beans.
I mean, I do like board games, but then I have to go outside.
I'm pretty sure you can play board games indoor, right?
Well, yeah, but you have to go outside to get to other people.
All right, yeah, true. They don't just come with the board game. You have to actually find them. Well, that Christmas market joke was a little risky. I didn't even think about that, Vaseline. Please don't construe that connection where there is none. It's a weird association, but yeah, I get it with the self-driving car before that. Yeah, I totally. But yeah, you said you pretty much only do gaming, so let's get into the gaming. So like, since when have you been gaming? Like, what was your first contact with games on which platform? Do you have like a handheld device growing up, or did you straight up go to desktop?
Well, the first game I played, some great parenting here would be, I was like 2 years old, and it was Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Getting in there young.
Like 2 years old? Which,
yeah, around then.
I mean, you already said you don't want to disclose your age, so be as vague as you want to be, or like give me a wrong answer if you feel like you'd be giving it away. But which GTA are we talking about? Which iteration?
Vice City.
Vice City, okay. Sorry, I missed that. I think I let my little sister play Vice City once or twice, and then she wanted to play it again, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah, I
let you
mean,
do that.
my memory of it is, I called it the taxi game, and I just wanted to drive cars around. But then the incident occurred, and I wasn't allowed to play anymore when I locked my grandmother outside and told her I was going to set her on fire and stomp on her. And then I wasn't allowed to play anymore for some reason.
You told your
But I
grandmother.
don't. I mean, I don't. My family tells this story like every time I'm around them, and I don't remember it. I only remember calling it the taxi game and like driving the cars around. But
Wow.
apparently, I got up to other things too.
That reminds me, I had this weird friend in was it elementary school? No, it was like early in high school, where he'd actually play GTA, and I think we were like 12 or 13 at the time, and like he would always wanna just drive a car and stick to the traffic rules. Like he'd stop at any red light and like let pedestrians cross and everything, right? And he just wouldn't care about the crime aspect of the game or anything but the driving and the cars. And I think he's like a car tradesman now. How do you call that? Car salesman, yeah. Really weird dude. But I haven't talked to him in ages, so maybe he's normal
I
now.
thought you were gonna say he's a psychopath now or something, because who does that?
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't heard from him in a long time. But it's also like there was this Microsoft driving game, which was like a racing game, but it was, I think, Midtown Madness or something like that it was called. And he didn't race there. He also just, followed the traffic rules. He was like really, really, like some children have these for their toy cars, like a carpet with streets and traffic lights and all that printed on, and houses and stuff. It's like he was really into that sort of stuff, just the role playing of traffic rules, and never could get behind it, because I thought always the fun aspect about games is that you get to break the rules instead of sticking to the rules.
I mean, well, it's kind of okay. I mean, like, there's like, it's kind of a meme, but it's kind of true. Like, you'll have truck drivers who are driving a truck for like 2 weeks or something as their real job, and then they get home and it's time to relax and they boot up Truck Simulator.
And then they don't run over people, but they just like transport cargo.
Yep.
Oh wow. Damn.
Maybe
Well, so
truck.
So 2 years old, did some taxi gaming in GTA Vice City, and then said something outrageous to your grandma, and then you were banned from the game. So how long was the hiatus until you were allowed or able to return to gaming?
Oh, it was just that game. I could still play games.
All right, you're just not allowed to play any more Vice City.
Yeah. I don't know, not that long. I mean, even just on that game, I don't know, maybe like a year, and I played it again.
Damn. And is there any particular point in time that you can point to where you realize that like gaming is kind of a thing that you're good at? Or is that something that came way later?
No, I mean, I feel like even when I was younger, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to compare now and then, because gaming was way different back then. Like, back then, like, nobody try-harded or anything, and like there was no metagaming, and I mean there was to a degree, but not anything like we have now. And I mean, like, I don't know, playing like Star Wars Battlefront or Call of Duty or whatever, I'd be on the top of the leaderboard, but I mean, I don't know if that really means I was good. It's more so everybody back then was really bad.
Humble, I like it. Dude, I got my ass handed to me whenever I played against real people. I would play bot games and like ego shooters or in like Command and Conquer, and then when I actually got to play against real people, I realized how bad the bots were. I was like, that's not proper practice.
Yeah.
It's also,
I played online pretty much the whole time. The only time I played against bots was also when I was around 2 years old, and my dad would be playing Counter-Strike on the computer, and he didn't want to deal with me or something. I don't know. And then there was a Counter-Strike or like a weird version of Counter-Strike Condition Zero that was on the Xbox, and he would set me up with bots and tell me I was in the lobby with him.
Oh, that's mean.
I didn't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what are you gonna do? I don't know how annoying you were at the time. It's like, maybe there was really no other way. Maybe you're just really enthusiastic to play with him. But I mean, he also couldn't responsibly bring you on the team that he was playing on. It's like, although, I mean, you were kind of good, right? So he could have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not much later, I started playing Counter-Strike actually on the PC, and then probably another not great parenting move, because back then, I mean, it was like the Wild West on the internet still. So I was like 5 years old and seeing like Goatsy and Meatspin plastered over all the walls and the maps, because you could upload your own images and like just put it anywhere in the game.
Oh yeah, I remember like for the
I mean,
spray
I didn't know what I was
tags.
looking at, but I was like, I don't know what this is, but this doesn't look right.
Oh man. And when did you piece it together? When like was there any like sort of epiphany, any moment where you like of realization where you're like, oh, that's what I was looking at back then?
I don't know if there's ever an epiphany. It was probably just like one day I was like, oh, okay.
It reminds me so much of this one Simpsons episode where Homer smokes weed and then the weed smoke goes downstairs in the living room and Lisa is like, it smells like the art teacher's office. But yeah, that's when you start
Yeah, I don't
piecing
know.
things together.
Maybe when I was like 12 or something. Meat spin, I had no fucking clue what it was for the longest time. I had no idea. I just knew it looked messed up. I could not tell for the life of me what it was. Maybe when I was around like 12 or something. And that's what 12 was probably when I started getting into like actual friend groups. So
All right. And then you did play, I know for a fact you did play League of Legends for a while, and I think that's some sort of common ground because I also played League of Legends between 2010 and like 2014-ish is when I quit, like about earlier in the year until later in the year I got into Path of Exile. Uh, yeah, is that something that you look back fondly on, your time in League?
the first couple years, yeah, it was good. And then I don't know, maybe after like 2015 or something, it was rough. It's pretty rough.
Yeah. No, but the golden age, like like 2010, I imagine, I remember that was like when before the competitions got really big, like when the first like world championships was still like a huge event because it's been something that's never been there in that shape or form and in that size.
Yeah, pretty much until the like big corpos got involved and it became, I mean, I'm not necessarily manufactured, but it feels less like, what's that word? Green roots, grassroots.
Hmm. So, is there any core competency that you think you have that contributes to your gaming skill besides starting at a really young age?
No.
I mean, being able to stay up long and maintain a high focus for a long time seems to me like a good
Yeah,
thing to have.
I don't know. I mean, I just attribute most of it to like I can log into pretty much any game, and even if I haven't played it before, I'm like familiar with how it'll be. Like once you've played a couple games, you kind of a feel for how systems are in other games. Like if you've played enough video games, you can pretty much hop into most games and be relatively comfortable.
Hmm. Yeah, you see patterns emerging,
Yeah.
imagine. Hmm. But would you say that does it just come to you really easily because of all that, or are you also like more driven than other people to be good at games? Or are you like if I actually had to work for it, then I wouldn't care, but like since it comes to me so easily, I'll just take it.
I
Like
mean,
imagine
I don't
PoE
know.
3 came out and you were really bad at it. Like you really sucked at it. Would you want to like become really good at it, or you're like fuck it, I'm going back to PoE 1 and 2 where it actually is easy
I mean,
for me?
I wouldn't say I'm too great at PoE 2 right now, but um no, I mean, for PoE I'd still try, but it's kind of hard because I mean it's my job now, so it's hard to say if I wasn't my job. Well, okay, let
Fair
me
enough.
put this way. But in PoE 1, before I started streaming, I was pretty bad. I did what I think most people do is you just make a bunch of characters, you get your you just get owned. You get to like level 85, maybe you get to like tier 10 maps, and then I made another character and I did that for like 10 years before I started streaming, and then I actually got good at the game.
Wait. No, you didn't do that for 10 years, right? You were just exaggerating, right?
It was probably more like 6 years or something. I don't know when. I started in 2013 and I started streaming at like the end of 2019-ish. At least streaming.
All right. So also you've been playing PoE actually longer than I have. You started in 2013.
Yep.
Crazy. Was that when the full release was, or was that before full release still?
Yeah, it's pretty much around the same time. I started in Invasion League. I think I played like a tiny bit before that. I played it like a tiny bit, I think in open beta, but is pretty much the full release, yeah. Invasion League, it's first league I played.
Invasion was hardcore, right?
Yeah.
Because back then they did different, for the people who don't know, different leagues for softcore and hardcore. And Invasion was the hardcore. It was alongside which softcore league? Was that?
I don't know.
I should know that.
Maybe like Warbands or something. No, maybe it was. I think it was.
No, Warbands was the Tempest on the
yeah.
on the 2.4 release. Like that was when Act 4 came out.
I have no idea what the softcore was at the time.
I should know it. Ambush probably, yeah. Probably Ambush Invasion, that makes sense. Could have been Rogue Exiles as well. But yeah, I mean, who knows? The wiki knows. It doesn't really matter. How did you like hear about Path of Exile? Like, what was your connection? How did you get in?
I mean, I think pretty much the same way as everybody else. I saw a Crypt video on YouTube.
Okay. Oh, that's not how I heard about it. I watched some League of Legends streamer log in. I was like, oh, this game looks kind of like this Diablo 2 game that I always liked, but that I never got to play as much as I would have liked.
Yeah, it was basically the same way for me, except it wasn't D2. So I didn't play D2 until like 2016 or something. But for me, it was like, oh, this looks like Champions of Norath. Time to log in.
Champions of Morath? I don't think I know that.
Norath.
Is there any... That's also an ARPG.
Yeah, it is. It's Dark Alliance. It's the Baldur's Gate engine from back then.
Okay. A Baldur's Gate rings a bell, definitely, and the Dark Alliance also somehow sounds familiar. Right. Any other ARPG experience before PoE?
Well, the Champions games. Oh, maybe it was EverQuest spinoff. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it wasn't Baldur's. I don't know.
Or like, I mean, vaguely similar games, like at least RPG, not necessarily ARPG. For me, there was always like these turn-based battle games where you had like a group of people, like a party of characters, and you had to fight monsters in dungeons. And
yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any other games back then that would have been like an ARPG. It would have just been Champions games. I mean, kind of different, but I mean, I played like a little bit of Gauntlet, but I don't think that really counts.
These are all things I'm gonna have to rewatch this when I do the timestamps, and I'm gonna write down every single bit and check it all out because I'm so curious about like these games that coined you and like got you into a situation or into to a point where Path of Exile was ready to sink its hooks in, or you were ready for Path of Exile to sink its hooks in. So you said a little bit at Invasion, but that wasn't like the main time when you started. It was like, when did you really get into the game? Or did I misportray that?
Yeah, no, back then I did not play much. And then I'd skip a bunch of leagues, log in whenever one looked cool or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was also before they really like refined their formula for the like 3 to 4 month release schedule,
Yeah,
right?
so
It
I
was like
think
all over the place.
I played random leagues after that, and then I think when they did Incursion League, I feel like Incursion's when the league quality went up significantly, and that grabbed me. And then I started playing a lot more, but not anywhere
Right.
near I do now, obviously.
I already really liked Abyss. Abyss is when I started content creation, really. When the Elder Ring was a thing, and the moving influence on the Atlas, and that's just 2 leagues before Incursion, right? Like you had Abyss, then was Bestiary, which was a cluster mess, and then Incursion right after. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Incursion was very polished and felt so amazing when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess okay, so maybe like maybe the actual like more refined leagues would have been like Breach when they kind of started to feel like they really got into a loop of what they knew what they wanted to do. But by Incursion, I mean like they like before Incursion, it was just like, all right, we'll walk over this thing and you get monsters, and then Incursion like kind of brought it to the next level, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that there's like an actual overarching like thing,
Yeah.
like a bigger picture for the in-map encounters. Whereas before, yeah, you're right. You just had like here is a random thing in your map that you walk over or you click on, it spawns monsters, you get loot, rinse, repeat. Right? Breach, Abyss, strong boxes, even. Yeah, you're right. Those are all pretty similar in concept. Uh, right. And is there any particular like feature that stands out from Path of Exile that fascinated you back then? Or was it the entire package, or was there like one aspect where you're like, wow, I've never seen anyone do like stuff like this. This is pretty cool. I like these devs.
I mean, just a passive tree and skill system. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
that's
feel like
fair.
back then that's all it really like. I mean, the gameplay was nothing to be very impressed by back then.
I'll tell
So
you what impressed me. What impressed me was that there was not a centralized gold currency in place, which I thought very unconventional and was like daring to do something different, but not for the sake of doing it differently, but with an actual vision where they're like, hey, we don't need that. We don't want that in the game because we want these currency items that actually have like a real value in the world because you can use them.
yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it was cool, but it was definitely the character progression stuff for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Okay. Right. And then from the more casual style that you mentioned you had, where you just played a couple of characters and derped around until you felt like you didn't want to play anymore, and then took time off for a random time until you felt like coming back. When did you transition into hardcore gameplay? Was that something that you did before you started streaming? I don't quite remember, or is that something that just came as a part of the streaming journey?
I mean, I played it on and off, mostly softcore. It's probably like the ratio is probably like 80% softcore and 20% hardcore. Because I mean, like I started in hardcore and in Invasion, right? So and then I did a few hardcore runs around the time everybody just used Sunder. And
It
then
reminded me of the Sunday Boy meme.
yeah, and then once I started streaming, I pretty much only did hardcore, except ironically not in PoE 2 because it sucks.
I noticed that yesterday. Like I tuned into your stream yesterday because I was like, I want to catch up a little bit because I don't know. Many people may not know this, but like I've been following and watching your stream like from like very early on when you started. Like I just realized, oh, this lady is really crazy. I mean, back then, this random young girl, and I saw the potential, and it like fulfills me with great joy to see where you got from back then to now. Um, I have no idea where I was going with this. Give me a second.
Hardcore?
Yeah, I know the hardcore connection. I'm just like, oh yeah, exactly. So I've watched you stream for a long time, right? I've been sub many months to your stream, and then like in the last year or two, I really severely limited the time that I spent on Twitch as a viewer. Is my camera stuck?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
I'm gonna try and fix that, but first I'm gonna finish the question. Um, so I haven't caught up in a while. Yesterday I was like, hey, if we're doing the interview, I want to catch the Lily vibes and see how she's doing at the moment, right? So I was like, I'll watch the stream for a couple hours and just see what you're talking about, what's currently keeping you busy. And I didn't realize that you're actually playing softcore right now. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about PoE 2, I guess, at this point. Like, what do you think? Why do you think hardcore sucks in PoE 2?
There's just too many things that are gonna like. I'm gonna play for 50 hours, and then something stupid's gonna happen, and it's going to be instantly gone. Like my last I did play a few characters in hardcore. I got one to maps, and I got one like right before maps.
Nice.
Like literally like one zone, and then I died.
I got one to Act 2.
Yeah, so the character I progressed the most on, I got to like, it's like 85 or something, and I forget what the map is, but it's the one with the molten boss that like lava falls on him and whatnot. Yeah, well, apparently that lava one-shots you, so I didn't know that, and I was taking it with like a PoE standpoint in my head. I'm like, okay, I could probably, surely I can stand on this ground effect for at least a few seconds and get some
Yeah, I got
damage
cap
down.
fire resist. It's not gonna kill me instantly.
Yeah, and then I just died instantly. And after that, I was like, okay, I don't really feel like making 5 more characters to find more things like this. I will. Isn't it like it's not good for content? It's not good for build variety. It's not good for fun. It's not really good for anything. So I just like, all right, I'm just gonna play softcore. And
I guess it depends on what your viewers find entertaining. I think watching Quinn die in hardcore never gets old, right? To his audience.
yeah, but for me it'll be like 50 hours and I'll die. So it's like one clip in multiple streams worth of content of me like farming something stupid because I'm scared of dying to a stupid one shot again.
Oh yeah. I know that. That's like one of my biggest gripes with hardcore gameplay in general, or like why I enjoyed the softcore transition a lot more than I thought, is because I never realized like how much hardcore was holding me back. Because I always tried to save play, and that's why I never really got better at boss mechanics and all that stuff. Because I'd only do the encounters at the point where I knew that I could safely do them, and then that means I go in quite a few levels later and power levels later than I should have gone in for it to be engaging content.
Right. And then softcore and PoE 2 actually has like significant consequences too. So
yeah, exactly.
It makes it like when I play softcore and PoE 1, I don't know, I get bored really fast, but in PoE 2 at least there's like real consequences, and you're encouraged to actually make a good character as opposed in PoE 1 where you're encouraged to make a bad character.
That's a really good way to phrase it. I haven't thought of it like that. Well,
Like,
I didn't
I
plan.
don't think it's necessarily good for most of the player base, but from my point of view on the game, it's probably better long term for them to scrap the big penalties. But for me personally, softcore has made a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I have mixed feelings about it. Whereas, like, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, if the game was already finished and good and fair, then it would be good that you lose your map when you die. But it just feels so punishing when you die in the first pack or something of a juiced map where you had like all the mods from the towers and everything, and then just loses everything. But then you have not completed the map, and you might have to do the map to be able to gain access to the maps behind it, right? Because they need to be connected. and then you have to run the empty map again.
Yeah.
Yeah, feels bad, man. Yeah, so about the crafting system in PoE 2, that's something I really hear a lot of people talk about. Are you happy with the extreme high numbers that you need to push in order to get anything good? Whereas it's really, it feels like rolling the dice, right?
Well, I think it's actually, I think it's easier than in PoE 1 to, well, it's hard to compare the two because PoE 1 has so much more stuff, but I think if you take PoE 1 and you scrap all the really, really OP crafting things, right? Like
Yeah.
harvest and stuff, and you scrap all the really OP things and you strip the games both down to slamming items on, it is infinitely easier to get items that are good in PoE 2. Like I've slammed so many random things that are really good, but the problem is they're never good for my character. So I can't actually use them. I think it's super easy to get like good gear, but you can never use it yourself and there's no way to actually like target progression on your own character. So you're kind of just stuck waiting for like RNG dice roll. Yeah, like the mod pool in PoE 2 is drastically smaller. So you just slam good things on all the time.
Yeah, so it sounds like it would be a really good game to play SSF and to have like 6 characters at the same time, and then whenever you slam something, it's not good for your character right now, but for one of the other ones that you're playing.
That could be the solution. You just make 6 SF characters, and then when you slam something good, you can actually have a use for it.
Yeah, it's just have like a matrix of like columns and rows of different factors. Is that this is ES and physical and attack. So that goes on that character. That's a spellcaster item, life based. That goes there. Just distribute the goods. Do you have a favorite boss in Path of Exile 2 already? Like, I mean, from the bosses we've seen so far, it's like I guess
I think
acts and maps are kind of the same, but
I think Arbiter and the Breach guy are really good, but it's kind of tough because the power level is already insanely high, so you kind of just one-shot them anyways if you're playing a good build.
Yeah, I haven't had enough time to get through those bosses, unfortunately, since I'm on a little bit of a reduced schedule. But
Yeah,
how
I think it
long?
takes too long to get to them. I don't know why they dropped the idea of like a quest version that's relatively easy to get to.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that for the trial of the Sekima and the ultimatum, that you have the quest item, and so if you fail, you can at least try and go again. And it's not going to help you at the higher levels, at the higher versions, because then it obviously doesn't exist, but it's good to have like a low level version that is accessible.
Yeah, I think there should be basically a, not necessarily tutorial mode of the boss, but like a linear progression to get it where it's not gated by RNG and you could do it for the first time.
How long did it take you to get there? Like from the time you got your character to maps, just roughly, like how much gameplay to get to
Like
any
on
of the
my
bosses?
first character.
Is it faster on the second one? Does it make a
Well, the
difference?
second one I can go through maps faster because I already have gear and stuff, and I mean I could buy the fragments if I wanted.
Right.
I don't know, it took me not that long for Breach. Breach is pretty fast. Arbiter is like super heavy RNG. You can find the wrong citadel like 5 times or something. I don't know how long that took me. It was quite a while. But I think something a lot of people are doing while they're not finding citadels is like you kind of feel like you're going far out on the atlas, but in reality you're not. And you're like just clearing all around the center spot you started on. That's what happened to me. I was like, okay, I've played for
You're
like
going in
100.
circles around the center?
Yeah, pretty much. Because I mean, you're incentivized to, right? Like you do the towers and then you do all the maps in the area, and then you go to other towers, and if you can already see the towers, it means you're in the same area.
Yeah,
So
right.
you
You want to
really
go
just
kind of back
yeah
to where the tower circles overlap, and you get all the
yeah.
juicy mods that you work towards.
So once I actually started just going in like one direction, not stopping for doing mechanics, just one direction towers, I started getting more citadels. And apparently, the amount of fragments that drop from citadels scales with waystone chance. So you can get like multiple fragments from one citadel.
Oh, okay. I'm learning things. Hmm. So we have an announcement for a patch coming. Well, patch notes on Sunday. I guess it's your afternoon, my evening. Um, and then GGG is gonna be on the podcast with DM and Gazi, and gonna talk. What are the most urgent things that you feel need to be addressed in the upcoming patch that you would like to see?
Um, I mean, okay, so I feel like there's two sides that like don't really, they're not mutually exclusive to each other. Like the same employees aren't working on bugs and builds, so I feel like the number one thing that needs to be fixed is all the bugs, but those aren't the same people fixing build problems. So it's kind of like that bugs is number one, but then you also have the build side of it, which is I think the overall power level needs to go way down. It's too easy to one-shot endgame bosses. It's kind of crazy.
If you're on the right build, but if you're not,
Well,
then
yeah,
it can
that's
feel
what I
like
mean.
I feel like the power level is too far spread out, right? There's just
Yes.
way too big of a distance between the least powerful, the wrong made builds and the right made builds.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't have it wrong. That's good. No, you're right. I mean, that doesn't compete. Obviously, we want features and bug fixes are necessary to happen. But yeah, I was more curious about like what you really want to see. Like maybe something that really frustrates you, annoys you. I know something, but for me, it's always these little things, like the little repetitive things, like enemies when you want to control click to interact. Not enemies, NPCs in town when you want to control click to interact with them, like to instantly sell or disenchant or something like that. And then they do like a lore dump on you, and then I always do that with Doriani, right? Like, then he wants to tell you
Yeah.
something, you control clicked him, and then you don't want to do vendor, and it's like all the shit is unidentified, and then you need to go back and identify.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that happening, especially in the like when you're leveling.
Yeah, because then there's so many quests and so many lore dumps that they do. Right. Um, how many characters have you played in Path of Exile 2 yet? Just for context.
Including characters that I like died at level 10 in hardcore, or
Um, I
let
was
me see
more
it.
curious about like, have you gotten a full impression of like all the different classes and archetypes that are being offered currently? And I know we are still missing like the large majority of what is going to be in full release, but like, is there any niche that you haven't explored yet? That's more what I'm
I've
curious about. Or have
I've
you?
brought half the classes to endgame. I did a Deadeye, Invoker, and Blood Mage. Oh, I've done 4 actually, and a Pathfinder. So yeah, I've done about half of the archetypes, I guess. I mean, not fully, because not every ascendancy, but they're still kind of similar.
Hmm.
But
And what
I
would be your?
haven't. Hmm,
Go for it.
oh, I just haven't touched warrior or yeah. But yeah. Is there another one? There's another one. Which one am I missing? Warrior or
Titan, or
oh, I haven't touched
have you
Merc.
tried?
I have not touched Mercenary.
Okay, so no Gemling Legionnaire and Witch Hunter.
No.
That's
But I
interesting.
did I played a crossbow build though, so which is kind of the Merc archetype.
Right, and you play that just on the Ranger, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard from people like some people told me, hey, if you want to do crossbow build, don't go with the Merc. Ranger is the play.
Yep.
It's definitely if you want to go fast. I kind of like the Merc because he has the dumbest lines. Like he sounds to me like a dwarf in Deep Rock Galactic because he always shouts "Fire in the hole" and stuff like that. Right? It's like these what is the word I'm looking for? Pretentious male stereotype statements where he's trying to say something badass. I don't know. I'm trying to sound cool. No, I was curious. What was your favorite character that you played so far? Like either from a like archetype sort of role playing immersion sort of deal, or because it was just so strong or good gameplay. Which one stood out to you?
Invoker with quarterstaff easily. Stashing
Okay.
around on every attack, and I mean, you explode the screen. It's not to love. Put a bell down and smack it. I don't know. I do like the combo based gameplay much more than just using
Then
only
the
one
one button
button.
spam.
Yeah. I don't know. Monk was just felt the smoothest. Clears good, does good damage, goes defense, that's good. Good at pretty much everything. But the targeting on the bell is a little wonky sometimes. So
Like you need to name lock to the bell. I'm just explain it to me. I have only played Monk with Bell in Act 1 on a controller in LA, so I haven't tried any Monk in early access right now. So what targeting?
so basically you'll throw your bells down on a boss, and depending on the boss, I think it happens more the bigger they are. But like sometimes you'll like I don't know, like it'll dash around the boss to hit the bell instead of standing still, and sometimes you won't even hit the bell and it like name locks on the boss and you won't hit the bell. Stuff like that.
Like the that reminded me of the Colossus boss, like when the in the Valley of the Titans, like the pseudo Kitava, I guess Kitava 2.0 or whatever you want to call it. The guy where you have to target the hands, like when you actually try to like name lock to him, and when you're standing in front of him, it's like really wonky, and the character is doing
Yeah.
weird stuff. So kind of
I
like
think the
that.
bell also has I think the bell actually functions different than like every other skill does when you actually press the button. I think I could be wrong, but I think whenever you actually press the button, it doesn't put based on where your cursor is, it just puts it wherever your character's looking. So it's kind of jarring sometimes that I'm like trying to aim behind me and then it goes in front of me. I don't know if
Oh,
that's
that's
actually what
weird.
happened or if it's just bugged and sometimes it goes in the wrong direction. Either way, it's not good.
That can't be intended. I have a very similar thing. I'm using this fire skill called Ember Fusillade. I don't know whether that's how you say it, but it's basically a little bit like Winter Orb or Blade Vortex in the sense that you wind up stacks, right? And then it attacks while you do other things or while you walk around. It just shoots the projectiles up out that you summoned that were lingering around you for a short delay. And with that skill, it really feels like it's made with WASD or controller in mind because the projectiles shoot also where you're looking, but they implemented like a targeting mechanic where you can put like a target circle with the mouse when you're casting a skill on a monster. But like when you're then trying to move while your projectiles are firing, it like goes into all directions. Like it shoots like 3 projectiles at the monster that you targeted, and then just wherever you're looking or walking or like all over the place. It's so frustrating because I'm like, I specifically made this character because after my Merc, I didn't want to play WASD again because I wanted to give my WASD fingers a little bit of a rest. And yeah. And now I feel like I'm forced into WASD. What's your stance on that? Do you enjoy WASD, or are you a strictly mouse and keyboard gamer with the traditional point and click?
I'm full. I only use WSD in PoE 2. And normally I don't like WSD in ARPGs, but I think it actually feels good in PoE 2 compared to normal.
What would you say, or what do you suppose is the deciding difference there for you? Why it feels so much better for you in PoE 2 than in other games?
I think it's mainly because you can attack while moving. It just makes it feel nice.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Because, yeah, the game is designed with it in mind, and WASD was implemented with the game design in mind. So it actually makes sense. Although I have to say that moving while shooting works remarkably well with the point and click mouse and keyboard as well. Like honestly, that was one of my biggest concerns. I even talked to Octavian about that when I was at Gamescom or somewhere where I met him. I was like, don't you think that bringing WASD into PoE 2 sort of invalidates the other mouse and keyboard input? Because like there's never a situation where you wouldn't play WASD, right? And then he told me that most people in the office, after the original hype about WASD, where everyone played WASD, most people in the office are back to regular point and click.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of like the really, really, really good players like Ben, I think they've always used point and click. I don't think they ever used WASD. There's some things though, like crossbows are like bugged with point and click or something, and you get some weird turning speed, and they're like impossible to use if you click.
Oh, okay. I might have not noticed that, but that would explain. I mean, I might have not noticed that it's a bug. I may have thought it's a feature, but I definitely noticed some weird things. But yeah, can you see yourself going back to point and click? Because or do you actually feel strain on your WASD hand more so than with the flasks, or is it the same?
No, I don't feel any strain from WASD. The only game that has ever given me strain, like in my hand at all, is D2.
Really?
Yeah,
Actually, which hand? The mouse hand or the keyboard hand?
the keyboard hand. Just
Okay.
from the way you have to swap skills, because it's
I
not
haven't I haven't ever
even like
played D2 at a high level, and it's been like many decades since I played it. Probably 5. No. But yeah. Um, I guess. We didn't go through a lot of the talking points that I wrote down that I shared beforehand because when we randomly got into PoE 2, I was like, well, we're running sort of late, and I don't want to keep you here for way longer than the originally planned 2 hours, and we need to talk a little bit about PoE 2. But I feel like there are some interesting questions still to be had from the list here. And if you don't mind, I'd go back into that and then branch back into PoE 2 if we feel like there's a connection, unless you have something about PoE 2 that you still want to bring up. Any strong feelings?
I don't know. Magic Find, I guess, is a hot take.
Yeah,
I feel like Magic Find is mostly fine.
it's mostly fine. Okay, in what ways is it
Yeah.
not fine then? But you're in general a fan of Magic Find being a stat in the game, but
Yeah.
what needs to change about it?
I think it's more of a character power problem. Like on the good builds anyways, you get so much power so quickly that Magic Find doesn't become a choice. It becomes you have to do it. I feel like the optimal scenario for Magic Find, and it's kind of like this in PoE 1 more so, not necessarily in softcore, because softcore you're incentivized to make a bad character, but in hardcore, you have to actually sacrifice power on your character for Magic Find. But in PoE 2 right now, you don't really sacrifice anything. It's relatively easily to get to the amount where before diminishing returns get in. So if you're not running it, you're kind of trolling. And it's not like there's any hard content that you can run that's super hard that you need to min-max your gear. Like it's really easy to do the top end content, right? So you need to put Magic Find in. Ideally, there's a balance where you can decide either you can do lower content, which in turn drops less stuff, but you boost up a Magic Find, or you do the higher tier content, which drops more and better stuff by scaling your player power.
What is you just mentioned it's easy to get to the point before diminishing returns kick in. What would that be? What is the sweet spot for rarity on a character?
It's like 150% or something.
150%. And you're saying that's easy to get to. Like 1, 2, 3,
Relatively.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
On
like,
pretty much every character I've played, I've been at like half that number without even thinking about it. Like right now on this character, I made it like 2 days ago. I've
but that's
not
like
thought about.
20% per item, right? So is that something you can get just on the
No, you
prefix,
can
or do
get
you need
like
to sacrifice
40%.
a suffix slot?
You get like 40% on your helmet. You get like 30% on other pieces of gear. Like I don't know. On this character, I just started it, and I have 76% without the gold charm, and I have not even specifically targeted rarity gear, which is halfway there already.
Fair. Do you think the gold charms are actually good? Like, I heard a lot of people say it's only like a second or two. It's not really worth it.
I'm not 100% sure if they work the way I think, but allegedly if you like kill a rare monster, it'll apply to that rare monster. So yeah, it's not like applying to everything, but
so it'll apply to the monster that like the drops from the monster that you killed in order to proc the charm. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I don't know if that's true. I kind of assume it does, otherwise it's useless. But
yeah, well, from the people who assumed that it doesn't work like that, I've heard that they really like it in Sekima Trial, when you have these hourglass trials and you just spawn a lot of monsters and multiple rares at once. So like when you kill a rare, you can kill the next rare like within that second.
yeah, it could work there too. I don't think it's great, but it's another avenue to get it.
Yeah. No, I definitely have to look into that. I'm just like playing this demon form infernalist at the moment, and you just need flat region on every gear, and that makes it so that the suffixes are really competitive because you also want to somehow cap your resists, and I can't imagine squeezing that amount of rarity in, because on the prefixes I need mana because my mana costs are absurd, and I also need energy shield because it's an energy shield build, so it's like, where am I gonna fit rarity?
Yeah, I mean, some builds would probably have a tougher time, but I mean, you can get rarity on your prefix on your helmet. I want to say you can on your gloves and boots too, but I'm not sure.
All right. Time to slam my items and get life rolls everywhere, and then I have to vendor them.
Yeah, I mean, some builds certainly will struggle with it more, but
it's like you said, like, yeah, please finish the sentence. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't know what I was gonna say.
Well, I was gonna say it's like you said, like, you know, some builds just get a lot of stuff for free and don't need that much from their items.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the build. Like, ideally, the builds that can't get it would in turn be more powerful, but not always how it works. But if it could at least on average work like that, I think it would be fine. Like, it's definitely pigeonholing builds more than it should, but I feel like it should be a conscious decision to make. But right now, it's not really a decision because there's like, it's basically not a decision right now. Right now, you just need it, right?
Yeah, I get that. You feel forced into it, because otherwise you'd be wasting your time.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe it should be less powerful overall, the returns that you get from it, so that there's less of a difference between the characters stacking rarity and the characters that don't?
Not necessarily. I think power just has to go down on characters, so you have to actually think about getting it as a stat. Well, similar to like how you said on your build, like basically how it is on the build you're playing, right? It's hard to get, so it should be a sacrifice.
Yeah. Trade-off is the word that I would have said, but yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Right. Are you going to play Path of Exile 1 whenever there's new content, or if you're happy with Path of Exile, that's the new game that you'll play all the time?
Yeah, I'm going to play both. I mean, especially while PoE 2 is broken for hardcore, essentially.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm uh, I'm not sure. I don't have that much time, so I'd like to think if I'm happy with Path of Exile 2, I'd like fully focus my time on Path of Exile 2 just because I want to get good at it again to the point where I feel confident to play hardcore. Or at least like I mean, like you said, softcore is also so punishing that you also want to be good at the game when you play softcore, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, if I had limited time, I would certainly focus it more into PoE 2. I think it's gonna be like I think PoE 1 is still the much better game, but it's gonna be really hard to play it after playing PoE 2. Like PoE 2 feels like the first actual step into a future for ARPGs for like over 10 years now. Like, I feel like the last feeling of an ARPG that stepped drastically into the future would have been PoE 1 when it released. And
Okay.
then
That's an
like for
interesting
like
take. Don't you think like PoE 1 has evolved so much? Or because
yeah,
it
but
happened in increments and in small steps, it doesn't feel like such a big step.
like even with how good PoE 1 is, right? You like you can feel it's a game from over a decade ago. Like you can feel it in the game, right? Like it
Absolutely, yeah.
has bad animations, just a lot of the designs are archaic and whatnot. And then it's
I'd
the
even say
same.
mixed, not just archaic, but it's like all across the board. You have stuff that feels really outdated in Path of Exile 1, and you have stuff that feels really new, like the kind of assets that they brought in that they said are not good enough for Path of Exile 2 that they made in the beginning of the development process, where they're like, oh, these affliction monsters here, they're just monsters that we don't put in PoE 2. Here, have them in PoE 1.
Right.
And so it's like I just feel like it's a very mixed feeling with Path of Exile 1, whereas PoE 2 really feels like it's from one maker at one time. Like the word that
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the proverb or
It's
figure of
like in
speech
PoE
exists in
1,
English. Like
you
it's
still have the still have remnants of the game that's made in a garage, right?
exactly, yeah. The old meme of you can take a game out of the garage, but you can't take the garage out the game.
Yes.
I feel like a really big problem PoE 2 right now has, or by extension, the developers will probably have dissecting the feedback that they get for PoE 2, is that a lot of the feedback that people give for PoE 2 is tainted by their experience of Path of Exile 1, where if PoE 2 was a completely different game that had nothing to do with PoE and people wouldn't go into it with the expectations that were shaped by PoE 1, then they'd be getting much different feedback. And yeah, do you think you have a sort of bias when you evaluate PoE 2 based on your experience with PoE 1? Is that something that you recognize with yourself?
Um, kind of, but in the other direction. Like, I'm pretty. I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but I had I had high expectations for PoE 2 to be drastically different than PoE 1. Like, I want
Yeah,
the game
same.
to be a completely different game, essentially. Well, like, still the core systems and whatnot, but to evolve. And I think it has to a degree, but especially the end game in PoE 2 just feels like watered down PoE 1 right now. Because I mean, it basically is. Even like the characters and how the builds develop is basically watered down PoE 1. Other than like maybe I don't know, Temporalis is pretty crazy and probably a step above PoE 1 builds because like in terms of craziness, anyways. But the core of it at the end game still feels pretty much like PoE 1, which is I don't know, not disappointing, but I was expecting more. I guess it is disappointing, but I don't feel disappointed. But it's like I want it to be a distinct game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I can very much relate to that. Whereas, like, you just wanted to be a completely different direction. I think Talkative Try has like phrased it really well, where like he really enjoyed the acts, but the moment that you get into Endgame, there's just a significant part of what makes the acts feel so good is gone. And for him, that's bossing, I think, where he's like, you just don't get that many bosses anymore once you're in maps.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I would like to like it's kind of the player power thing. You kill all the bosses so quickly. So in most
So
maps
you just
don't
play
have
way better builds
bosses.
than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play bad builds, so I only play meta builds pretty much. I mean, right now I'm not really, but if the build I'm playing isn't at least semi close to a meta build, I won't enjoy it.
Well, so you have I mean, how did you do that when there was no meta? Did you like have a build in mind before early access came? The like with specific mechanics and like a tree that you planned more or less?
I didn't really plan a tree, but I just had vague ideas. Like I originally wanted to go witch hunter
Okay.
because the way I was like in my mind, the way I kind of wanted the game to be was like lower player power, like because it's the start of a game, so usually power goes up over time. So I was assuming it was going to be quite low. I was looking
Yeah.
at Witch Hunter. I was like, wow, this looks really good for clearing. You get like 30% cull on normal monsters. You get explosions. You get a bunch of stuff like that. Like not expecting it to be so easy to get on other characters. Like I wasn't expecting Herald chaining to be a thing yet in this game. Yet it's pretty easy to chain your heralds and blow up entire packs. So I wasn't expecting that. So I was like, okay, Witch Hunter has explosions built in. That's got to be crazy. It was basically like the map clearing character is how I was taking it. But I don't know. As the game creeped closer to release and more stuff was revealed, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go Deadeye instead because it just looks way better, and we'll see what happens. And I was pretty dead on because Deadeye is definitely one of the better classes, and Witch Hunter is definitely one of the worst classes. Just because you don't really get anything from Witch Hunter. All this stuff Witch Hunter has, you could do on a Deadeye, but way better.
How do you get explode on it? Oh yeah, heralds.
Yep.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I haven't tried the double herald stuff. It seems to be very strong from how people talk about it. I do like the witch hunter explosions though. And I kind of like the concentration mechanic, but it's really hard to judge how much it actually does. Like, I mean, yeah, when the concentration is at 0, they take 30% more damage. I guess I can judge that. I can feel that when I've been in a boss fight for long enough that they take more damage. Sure, you don't want to fight a boss for that long, but the other thing where it reduces the cooldown recovery rate of boss skills is really hard for me to judge.
Yeah, I thought that was looking good, but we don't really know. Or at least it was a kind of a guessing game pre-launch, and I didn't want to leave my first character up to guessing, so I just went with something safe, because if that was good, then yeah, okay, it would end up being pretty good, but bosses get deleted quickly if you're playing a meta build anyways, so it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I didn't get to that point where I delete bosses, and like you said, before we went into early access, I assumed that it would be balanced in a way that there would just be no boss deleting stuff, at least not in the first week or two, like before people like find the really OP items and combos and whatever, and like in scaling mechanics that fuel into each other. And so I thought that Witch Hunter with the crossbow theme was just, like you said, A, with the power from the Ascendancy, felt like it was filling in the gaps, the correct gaps, but B, also I could really imagine and see myself sticking in a boss fight for a long time and like mechanically outplaying by firing with the crossbow, dodge rolling, shooting grenades and all that, because I tried it in an early demo and I felt the moment to moment gameplay with the crossbow archetype just felt really good, regardless of class.
Yeah, I wanted to go crossbows because I think they're cool.
Yeah, novelty factor, right?
Yeah.
Are you hyped about what other archetypes are you hyped about that we're gonna get? Is like anything, any and everything, or do you have a specific? I guess like what are you
Well,
looking forward most?
I wanted to start Huntress as my first character, but it didn't come out. So I think at the playtest and stuff, I think Huntress was by far the best feeling character. So I imagine it was
Oh,
going to be
really?
a solid start. Yeah, it was. It might be nerfed now, but Huntress had an actual movement ability where you just keep dashing and there's no cooldown. So it felt pretty smooth, and then all the javelin skills felt nice too.
Yeah. I haven't played Huntress in the early versions, but from what I heard from other people is the mana was sort of problematic. But then again, I don't think I've heard anyone on any class not complain about the mana issues.
I don't remember it having mana problems, but they gave us pretty specific snippets of the game during those. So
Yeah, it's hard to judge overall
yeah,
when you have like a character set up for you and you go into yeah, a section of the game that is just designed as a demonstration piece, and you don't really get to build your own character and play through the entire game.
other than
Well,
that, I don't know. Well, there's one class I'm not looking forward to, and it's Druid. I don't like Druids in games.
you're just generally not a fan of the archetype, or do you specifically
I feel
dislike the
like they
shapeshifting?
usually have pretty boring stuff. I'll turn into a bear and slap things, and that's it.
You could turn into a wolf instead, I think, right? There's also
That's
another form.
true.
I
You
actually
could be a
played the druid
werewolf.
in 2023 at Gamescom. They had it. It's like, I also think that it wasn't on any other game tests, right? Not no on any other early gameplay demos.
I don't think so.
But yeah, from what I can tell you about the druid is I think they did a really good job design-wise. I mean, overall the game is super pretty, the sound design is amazing, the soundtrack is great, and like you already pointed out, the animations, everything transitions so smooth and looks so good and so up to date in comparison, especially in comparison to Path of Exile 1. And I think the druid is no exception there. The shape-shifting feels really good, and the automatic swapping between human and bear form based on the skill, right? The same way the automatic weapon swap works on non-shapeshift characters. And what really made it super cool for me is I felt like I was more tanky when I was in bear form, because I'd be stunning things around me and I'd be getting hit less, to the point that I actually asked Rory or Rishi, I don't know anymore. One of the two, I asked whether you actually get defensive stats in bear form. Like, are you actually defensively stronger? Do you get like armor or something, some sort of generic damage mitigation? Because it sure feels like it. And they were like, nope, it's exactly the same. And that was a really impressive moment for me, where I was like, okay, so it's really just based on the gameplay and based on the animations that I feel stronger.
Yeah, I have this. I want games to stop making like the same class. Like I love the D2 classes, but I feel like GGG needs to branch out a little bit more and make some. I mean, they kind of did with the Merc, but even the Merc, it's crossbows. Like they should have just stuck guns in the game. Maybe they didn't do it because of some rating system or something, but I don't know. I feel like every dark fantasy game has the same stuff in it.
Hmm.
I'd like to see
Uh,
more branched out classes.
yeah, I can see what you're saying, but like I think that's just a general design problem. It's like you just always want to give people something where they can have a certain expectation and a certain, you can't like stray away from the known too far, and just this medieval mystery fantasy sort of setting just works well with ARPGs or RPG systems in general. Like, I've seen this thought experiment once on social media where someone said, "Well, I try to come up with a good set of item mods or character attributes in a or in a scientific setting, like in a sci-fi setting, and it's so much infinitely harder than to do the medieval fantasy setting, because you have all these well-established tropes already, whereas, yeah, with sci-fi you don't
Yeah.
apparently."
I mean, they've had some things that are pretty different. Like, I don't know if I'd consider crossbows that different, but I mean, I guess they're like guns and stuff like that. And I feel like they could have leaned into it a little harder. I mean, the demon form like thing is cool. I don't know.
that's
I
definitely
think
something that I
that's,
haven't seen like that before.
yeah. I mean, Last Epoch has some cool transformation stuff that's different. I don't know. I like to see it branch out a little bit more instead of just warrior, bonk guy, bow guy, mage guy.
Yeah, I think those are just the very basic things, the kind of things that are your essentials that are just, if they weren't in the game, people would be complaining about them not being in the game. But I totally think that
Yeah.
it's fair and valid to say that it's kind of played out and you want to see the new ideas actually. But I'm so sure we're gonna get more. I mean, right now we have only what, a third of the ascendancies in the game that are gonna be in there.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that one thing that they teased early is going to be still in the game. I don't think so, because we already have 2 out of 3 Ranger ascendancies. So, oh wait, no, Huntress is a different class in the same starting point. There's also going to be 3 ascendancies. They teased this one ascendancy notable early on, I think in 2019, where it says you can use melee attacks with crossbows, with bows. You remember
Yes, I
that?
remember that. Yes. I think all of that stuff is gone. I don't think any of that stuff in the game, because at that point in the game, they're basically just a big expansion of PoE 1 with a different name for marketing, and now it's drastically different. I think all of that stuff is gone.
That'd be sad. I really wanna cyclone with my bow or something.
Yeah, I hope that makes it in, but I would not expect it. Because I mean, back then I like some of the ascendancies they showed had like spell suppression nodes and stuff too. Still, it was certainly designed with PoE 1 in mind then.
Yeah. Hmm. Are you confident that they will now let PoE 1 be more PoE 1 and more of like the zoomer blaster kind of game that they leaned into for a while before they turned around and pulled it into the more ruthless PoE 2-ish direction again? Because
I
now
mean,
that
I think the last couple leagues they've been doing that. Like, I mean, part of the like I don't know, part of the reason I don't want to say completely burned out, but I've been enjoying PoE 1 less is because I feel like the balance has gone towards tilting towards just power creep. Everything's super crazy. Like, I mean, gauntlets
okay,
were
so even
being.
more so than in the past.
Yeah, I think they're already going in that direction. I mean, they add more hard content, but the overall player power in PoE 1 is like off the charts. Like, if you're not like 90 max res spell suppressed, your character sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I mean, for the average player, it would be a long time to get there. But if you're one of the sweaties, it doesn't take that long to get there. Or it should probably take a little bit longer. Like, the uber bosses in the game probably shouldn't be doable on like day one. I mean, I know for most people it's not, but I don't know. The player power is probably a bit. I mean, I'm fine with it if PoE 2 doesn't go this way, but I've been kind of burnt out a little bit of PoE 1 because the power creeps has gone out of control. Like Defiance of Destiny, for the couple leagues it was unchanged, and you take 35% of your HP back every time you get hit, and you're like immortal to anything that doesn't one-shot you. They just leave that in the
Yeah.
game for months. And it was common item too for a while. It was like tier 3 or something. And that, and then like stuff like that. There's a few other examples, like Trickster is crazy. You have 20,000 energy shield on day 2, and you have 5,000 energy shield regen uptime 100%. With nothing really crazy on the gear.
Is that not even a little bit exaggerated? 20,000 ES on day 2?
I mean, it might be a little exaggerated. It might be like 15,000, but
Maybe I'm just extremely out of touch with the extreme top end of Path of Exile 1 since I've become
yeah,
a
I mean,
softcore
basically
casual.
the meta right now for PoE 1 right now, like at the high end, is basically you play Trickster, you play a build that gets like 5 million DPS for no reason because it's just super strong stats wise. Power Siphon Trickster, and then you will farm Expedition for like a day and get 5,000 Alteration Orbs, and then you use them on Energy Shield, Evasion Armor, and you spend like 5 hours rolling 5,000 Alteration Orbs, and then you recombinate them in Settlers, in the Settler camp mechanic, and then you print near perfect gear at relative ease, and boom, you're at like 20,000 Energy Shield. And spell sparks capped. And you have 5,000 regen. Overleach too. It's not just regular regen, it's overleach. So it's regenning even when you're not getting hit. And your HP for energy shield.
Don't you need to like put in a lot of time to get that recombinator thing in the settlement to the high level where it actually has the good outcomes? Or doesn't it get better the more you upgrade it? Or something like that? I don't even remember. It's been so long. Settlers started like 8 months ago.
Fast.
Okay.
I mean, like for casual players, this is not really a thing, right? But
well, I mean, like, you know, 2 days of game time are 2 days of game time, whether you're like a pro or a casual. It's just the casual will have the 2 days of game time like 4 weeks in, I guess. Whereas the no-lifer will have it literally on day 2. But
I don't know. I mean, I get a lot of flack for this, but like I don't know. I feel like PoE is one of the few games that's not designed with the casual player in mind, and I think it should stay that way. Even when I didn't put much time into the game, like when I was a noob, like I didn't think the game should be balanced around me, the person playing one random league every now and then for a couple hours here and there. I don't know. I feel like too many people want the game to be balanced around them specifically, which makes sense, but they could go play like any other ARPG, and it is. I feel like PoE can be balanced around the sweats, and it's fine.
Yeah. I also really
obviously not popular opinion.
I agree with it. It's just that I think the people who don't agree with it, the people with who that opinion wouldn't be popular, they're just not like seeing the full picture when they think they'd be having more fun if they were able to beat the game on their whatever playtime during the league. Like, because that, I feel like there's a world where the game is exciting to top end players, right? And it still offers excitement to people who don't have that much time or are not that good at the game. But I don't see it the other way around, where the game allows casuals to complete the game, for lack of a better term, or like do all the bosses every single league, but then still appeal to the top end of the no-lifer audience.
I mean, I feel like PoE 1's set up right now where casuals can do everything in a league span, but then you have people who are like really no game play time, like they get like 1 hour on the weekend when the kids are in bed and the wife is watching her soap operas or something, and the tomato farm has been planted already and whatnot. And then like, yeah, those people are never going to be able to do anything. But I don't really understand the mindset of, I think it's a product of the internet I grew up on compared to maybe people. I mean, I guess these are all like 30 plus old people, I think, on average, that are complaining about stuff like this. So maybe not a product of my time on the internet growing up, but when I was a kid and I saw someone way ahead of me in a game, I was like, damn, that's cool. I'll get there one day.
Yeah.
There's like I almost looked up to them in a way. I'm not like really looking up to them, but like in like a video game kind of sense, it's like, holy shit, those guys are really good at the game. And I feel like now it's like people are like instant validation. I want to do everything right now and I don't want to wait. Why does he get to do the boss, but I don't?
Yeah, I think that's also now that you say it, I realize that's also probably the very famous phenomenon of like online social media comparing yourself to others, where you only see the tip of the iceberg of the other person's success, right? But you don't see the massive amount of work and dedication and time investment that goes into it. You know, when people post their
Yeah.
$500,000 car on Instagram, but obviously they don't post the thousands of sleepless nights that they had to go through, and the time that they almost lost their entire company because they gambled on something or like made a tough call and had to pull through. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of what the I think it probably is due to maybe just video games becoming more mainstream now. Like I guess like growing up, I mean it wasn't super bad when I was a kid. It wasn't like scared to say it, but if you told people you play video games, your like social rating goes knocked down like 3 pegs. I mean maybe like a while ago it would have been like instantly threw your thrown in the dumpster, but at least when I was growing up, like I wouldn't go around talking about video games. People it was still a niche thing. Not like it was at one point, but it was kind of like all the people who play video games weren't doing it as like a random hobby way to kill time. I mean, like it is to kill time, but it's like you're doing it because you thought it was like really cool, right? Like really really cool. Like you see someone who's really good at a video game, you're like, holy, that guy is insane. And now I feel like now with how mainstream it is and stuff, like people are like, that guy's a loser. I should be able to do that in 2 hours. Why is the game like this?
Yeah, genau. Yeah, exactly. That guy just has no life. I'm like, yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. Like, it was more of a niche sort of hobby. I wouldn't say it was like completely unpopular or unacceptable to talk about it in public, but it was definitely not as easy to get into a conversation with it as it is nowadays, and certainly not with everyone, and probably not in the sphere that you grew up, like me, with being a boy and talking to boys. Probably there was a lot more overlap with the interest in video games. But
Yeah, I don't know. My school was, I don't know, my school kind of felt like it was in a time frame, like it was like a generation before the generation that I was actually part of, because like nobody played video games. Pretty much nobody played video games. And I think now a lot probably do, but and then the people who did
yeah,
play video games wouldn't share it because they were scared they're gonna get made fun of or something. Or be like, ew.
yeah, but it's like nowadays, like having some sort of gaming device in a household is like sort of a staple, right? Like everyone has like a
Yeah.
console or a computer or something that you can play games on when you have guests over. Like even the most filthy casuals have something, right? Whereas back in the day, it'd be like something that you really had to go out of your way of, and if you wanted to have friends who share the same hobby, you wouldn't find them immediately.
Yep.
Well, that makes me want to go back into some general gaming and content creation questions, and I feel like this one fits really well. Where in your GGG streamer interview in 2022, you said that now that it's a career, video games feel more like a job. Is that something that you still feel very much right now, or has it changed since then?
Um I don't feel it towards PoE 2 right now, but I did feel it towards PoE 1, and like in the it happens when I don't think the game's in a good spot, like in like Calandra League or something, but I still have to play the game. I'm like, okay, I'm not having fun, but I need to log in. Um I think that's kind of like why I'm not playing hardcore, because I like, all right, I gotta go level another character because I died to some like stupid orange square on the ground that one-shotted me for no reason. Like,
Right.
it just it's when it becomes a monotonous grind and I'm not actually enjoying it and I'm doing it for content or whatever.
And then it's also not something where you're like, if I wasn't streaming, I probably wouldn't be playing as much.
Right. Like there have been plenty of points where I would have quit a PoE 1 league like 2 months ago if I wasn't streaming. But instead I'm still playing. Not that I hate playing it even at those moments, like it's tolerable, but I'd rather be doing something else.
No, I get what you mean, that the combination of gaming and streaming is what keeps you in, because there is a certain level of enjoyment that can be derived from like sharing the game with the audience and like having them feel your suffering or your enthusiasm and like bouncing ideas back and forth and all that, where like actually streaming makes the game more fun in a way.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that Yeah, I was curious whether that's something you'd agree with, or where you're like, hey, I'd actually enjoy the game more if I wasn't streaming.
No, yeah. I don't know, I definitely enjoy more games when I'm streaming more. Like, I don't really play many games off stream anymore. It's because when I play them off stream, I'm like, I could be streaming this. But then I'm like, that wouldn't be great for my stream. And it's like, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then generally just having less time outside of stream than I used to. But streaming games definitely makes it more enjoyable, especially when I'm not in PoE. Usually chat's better when I'm not in PoE. Ironically.
I think there's just a very established meme culture around the game and a sort of communication on it. I have to ask, because I noticed that with me, do you have people that are just extremely jaded about PoE or like their relationship with grinding gear games, where they come back every week to play?
Yeah, I can pinpoint the exact moment this happened is when they took Harvest away.
Okay. So not when they took Flasks into a different direction with Expedition.
No. It was specifically, well, not the first time they removed Harvest. It's when they removed Harvest, that was fine. And then they add Harvest back in an even more OP state, where it's like just it is essentially, I mean, in its original state, it was also essentially an item editor that you didn't really have to play the game. But
yeah, but in the original, you at least had to do the tedious mini game.
Yeah, there's this large subset of people who just wanted to click a button that has text on it, and then that text transfers to their item, and they thought that was like the best game ever. And those people they've kind of gone away now. They still exist, but for like 5 years after that, it was just they're subsiding now, but it was just over after that. It would be like every single day in chat, someone crying about Harvest. It's like 6 leagues ago since Harvest was nerfed or whatever. And they're still crying about it every single day. There's still Reddit posts, huge manifestos about why the item editor should be added back to the game. But yeah. I do have to wrap it up here. Got a sponsored stream soon.
Oh yeah, I was unaware. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to,
no worries.
Overdraft it. But no, I mean, the thing is, we didn't communicate like an exact deadline or anything, but I was aiming for 2 hours, and I was just very enthusiastic. And at some point, chat says, "No, keep her longer," and I was like, yeah, I do have a bunch of questions, but then at the same time, it's like I don't really, my philosophy with these podcasts, or in general with podcasts, is just like, or in general with content, is you want to leave on a high note. You want to leave when there's still more enthusiasm for more to come, both from the audience and also from the creator involved. You don't want to burn yourself out to the point where it's like, I really need to end the stream now, and the audience already tuned out or fell asleep, right? You want to end when they're like, hey, no, keep giving us more. So we'll just end it. I'll take note of which questions we went through, and I'll just invite you back in 10 to 20 weeks or something like that at some point in the future, because there's still some things I'm curious about.
Alrighty.
But you did provide some cool insights. And anything you want to say to the people watching? What are you gonna stream? What is your sponsored content about? Are you gonna?
That's Torchlight Infinite. I mean, I think a lot.
Well,
I think
that sounds good.
Yeah, I like it. It's a pretty good game. I think it gets a. I think most people just see it's cartoony and instantly cartoony mobile game, and they don't realize that it's actually like a. I can't even say a light edition at this point, but it's kind of like PoE 1's cousin.
In a top 5 ARPG, where would you place it? Is it right after PoE 1 and 2, or is there something else that's still better? Or
yeah,
I mean, it's definitely for you in the top 5.
Yeah, it's definitely like it is very, 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 very similar to PoE 1. The skill system is pretty much the same. The trees are not the same, but it functions in a very, very similar way, where if it had PoE graphics, I would believe the game could have gone in that direction if it went a different way. It's basically just like the ultimate softcore blaster game.
All right, maybe I'll check it out. Grimrow and Tuna always talked very fondly about it as well. So, one day it'll get me. But yeah, I think it was really great. Thank you for taking the time to come on. I had a lot of fun. I got a lot of answers that I was hoping for, and a lot of answers that I didn't expect at all. And yeah, I definitely helped me understand a little bit more where you come from, and maybe there's also some knowledge that I can apply to my own gaming and content to become a little bit better, a little bit more like you. Not too much though, but just enough. Don't want to lose my own individuality. But no, thanks so much for coming on and being cool. And guys, if you didn't know DS Lily before, what are you even doing in Path of Exile? Definitely go follow Lily and check out her content. And this will be uploaded in full. I'm still dealing with the Spotify thing to get all the podcasts up, but it's definitely on my YouTube. And there's going to be more episodes that I will announce on social media and all. And that's that. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you for the next one when there is a next one. And I have an outro where people are shown who did support in November, because I didn't make an outro since then. So kind of scuffed. But if you sub now, I promise I added a new outro screen for the next podcast. Trust. Oh, also, we got Faded on Sundays. Faded with Beta R and Slippery Jim. And of course, as always, Balor at 12 p.m. UTC. Tune in, and we'll see you until then. Bye-bye. Thanks, Lily, again.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.